Okay, so today I thought we would talk about, different loan products and what options buyers have. I've had a lot of people come to me saying they want to start the home buying process, but they think that they just can't get a pre-approval because they're self-employed. And of course, me being self-employed too, you helping me get a loan, I'm always like, no, it's totally doable. You don't have to have an employer to get a pre-approval. So, what options do those people have?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought this up because I think that a lot of people miss out because I
Yeah.
will say most of the big banks, keep in mind every bank has their particular set of rules. And then, most people will kind of look online or just chat a little bit here or there. So they think that it's not possible. A lot of
Right.
people think you have to put 20% down and you have to have a 2-year work history and you have to have your tax returns show your income. All three of those are completely false. So we're kind of debunking the top three myths here.
Right.
So, focusing on self-employed a little bit, there's a few different ways to do it, and I think the timing is so crucial for self-employed borrowers right now too, because it's tax season.
Yeah.
So, hands down, even if you don't think you'll qualify, what we typically do is walk our self-employed clients through a couple different avenues because we always want to start with what's going to be the best fit,
Right.
and then look at alternative options in
Right.
case those don't work out. Right? We want to try to get you to qualify with the normal rules. But if you don't, there's tons of options. So right now we're having a lot of people do a mock up with their taxes. So let's just say if you started a business last year and you're about to file your taxes, have your CPA, or if you're doing it yourself, just do the mock up and we can see if you do qualify. Because believe it or not, if you do have history, even if you've been self-employed for just 1 year, let's say, if you can show that there's a history of your expertise in that field, for example, let's say you were a manager at a restaurant or running a restaurant for a couple of years, and then you started your own restaurant. Even though it's 1 year in the business, because you can show a track record that you are an expert in that field, then a lot of times we can push for an exception. So I think that's really important. We have a lot of people in construction, right? They're working union, they're working for somebody, then they start their own construction company. Same thing with tech, right? It could go across to any career. So if you can show that you are an expert in that field, then there's a chance that you can get approved. And tax season is perfect because we can look and your CPA can say, okay, well, here's your gross income. And after all your expenses, here's what your net is. So you can decide and have them show you what you'd be paying in taxes if you kind of adjusted those. So it's up to you if you actually want to claim all those deductions.
Yeah.
So that's option one, is to try to qualify normally,
Yeah.
right? So if you can't, if you truly are not going to show the income after all your expenses, or if it's just a much better tax advantage for you to
Right.
show all your deductions,
Right.
which is pretty much most people, right? Most
Yeah.
self-employed people,
Yeah.
they're going to write everything off because you can, right?
Right.
And so there's a couple different avenues. If you are making a lot of money to qualify, then we don't even have to look at the tax returns. We can just look at your bank statements and say, hey, we see the money coming in. So we'll average that out. And we actually do have a 12-month bank statement program. So
Okay.
you don't necessarily have to have the full 24 months.
Okay.
So that's a huge avenue. That is probably the number one thing, yeah, that
Yeah,
people go
that's
for.
amazing. So what about like a couple? So say one person does have like a steady normal paycheck job,
Mhm.
but the other person does not. How do you
Yeah.
work with those two together?
Very creative question. I love it. Yeah, we have that all the time. Yeah, so they'll do a blend. So they'll just look at the bank statements for the self-employed and then they can count the regular income from the W-2.
Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty common actually. And believe it or not, you can still have those programs with 10 or 15% down. So you still don't have to have that full 20% down,
Awesome.
right? So yeah. Yeah. And then I know we've talked about the DSCR
Yeah,
program.
right.
So it's like a debt service program where you don't have to show anything. You don't
Yeah,
want to show the bank statements with the income. You don't want to show the tax returns. They're putting you in a really good position because they know if you're purchasing a home and if the rent is going to cover that mortgage, they know that you're going to be profitable. So that's what they're looking at. They're not looking at you qualifying as a buyer. They're looking at the profitability of the
okay,
investment. So
gotcha.
that's huge. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hmm.
So with something like that, if say like a rental income, what if you wanted to purchase the property with that DSCR loan, but you were planning to live in it as well, but also have a maybe somebody help cover that mortgage with rent, like a roommate or something
Hmm.
like that? Is that something that they take um, into consideration as well?
Typically, so with the DSCR program, that's going to be an investment program. So they're not going to necessarily count you living in one unit. If anything, you want to show that full income. So that's what the appraiser does. They're going to go out there and do an assessment to see either short term or long term what is the profitability of that unit. Now, if somebody decides to move into their Airbnb and, do that kind of part-time, or some people live in one side and they remodel it, they close the other side off. So
Right,
there's a lot of creative things that I've seen
right.
people do,
Yeah.
and it all works. As far as the loan goes, you don't even have to worry about that because they're just going to look at the profitability.
Okay,
So
awesome.
yeah,
That's
it works
amazing.
works to your favor, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think I'll add as a last thing too, because there's so many people that are retiring or maybe they just have fixed income. We have a lot of people that want to buy something, but they don't feel that they'll qualify because they don't even have a job, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're on a fixed pension or social
Right.
security income, or maybe they're helping out family as a caretaker. Just know that the government does use all of those sources of income. And so we've helped a lot of people set up a 401k withdrawal just to show that they're going to have some money coming in, and that could be a source of qualifying as well. So there's just lots of things. You just never know until you have a professional look at your
Yeah.
situation. But I would say usually it feels so heavy. People, if you even have a thought of, hey, I really want to buy something, but I don't know if I can. Fortunately, with Melanie and I, we'll review everything, and we know that sometimes it's not instant, right? I've been doing loans for 20 years. Sometimes it takes people a 5-year plan that we put them on to buy. Sometimes they buy that weekend and they
Right.
didn't even know that that could happen.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it's like just get in there, have us look at it and give you a real analysis.
Yeah.
And that way you can decide what you want to do with the information.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. A phone call, a discussion, it never hurts. So this is
Yeah,
awesome. I'm gonna send this out to everyone who thinks that they can't buy a home.
blast it out. Yeah.
Do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for that.